Hello. Just doing a little impromptu video on at 12:05 at night on the evening of January 23rd. Um, just a little bit of a progress report. I've just finished the fifth edit on The Hour of the Wolf, and the second edit on From Where. And that's going along pretty well. I'm probably gonna put them in a collection with In a Mirror Looking Out and From Where, not From Where, Lost Hours, because none of them are long enough to be on their own. I don't like putting out anything shorter than 20,000 words, or within the neighborhood of 20,000 words, with on its own. I thought, since I've got so many new subscribers, I thought I'd do just a quick overview of the 11 books I've got out. Just a quick look, just a quick thumbnail of what they're about, and we'll see how it goes. Sorry, I had a little limoncello before. I'm a little woozy. So, as I've said, I've been writing since I was 12 or 13. I've always been attracted to science fiction more than anything else. Most because it helps me escape from the world. So, way back in 2012, I took two of the stories, With Eyes Open, and a story that when I started writing it, I didn't plan on it being a sequel to With Eyes Open, but A Voice in the Darkness became a sequel to With Eyes Open. Sorry. Hang on a second. I'm going to move this camera a bit because okay, that's a little better. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't edit these things, so yeah, you're gonna see all this. Anyway, and I wrote a bunch of stories, and I kept sending them out, and people kept saying it's not for us, not for us, not for us. Finally, I decided I'm going to try self-publishing, just to see. So I took those two stories, With Eyes Open and A Voice in the Darkness, and I put them together in the first collection, With Eyes Open. Basically, the basic premise of With Eyes Open, the story is, you ever see something move out the corner of your eye, and then you look and there's nothing there? Like, I have a cat, so a lot of times it's her that I'm seeing, but sometimes there's not. And I speculated, like, what if that's not just a figment of my imagination? What if there is a race here on the planet with us, but we can't see it? So that's where that grew into the idea of the Adichas and them needing a human anchor. And the story, With Eyes Open, deals with the change from one anchor to another, and then almost 200 years, not quite 200 years down the road, in 2199, we get to see how things are going. Although, as I said, that's not how it started out. Then I figured, okay, well, I've got all these other stories. Why don't I do something with them as well? Campfire stories. There are that's right. The End of Seconds to there's 8 stories. Yeah, there's 8 stories in here because I keep getting this and the next book confused. One has 8 stories, one has 7 stories. I'm always getting them backwards. This has 8 stories in it. These stories are not arranged in the order that I wrote them. They're arranged in the order they take place in the history of my fictional universe. All my stories are set in the same fictional universe, stretching from 3.8 billion years plus 1 day in the past. And at the time of this story, at the time this book came out, 7781 was as far in the future as I've gone. I have since gone farther into the future. The one story I want to mention from this is called The End of Seconds, because I was raised Catholic and I would always ask, where did God come from? Because the book of Genesis starts off with, and God said, let there be light. Where did God come from? And you're told, you don't ask that question. But I'm asking the question, where did God come from? Because I could accept even when I was a kid, I could accept the possibility of a being all powerful enough to bring about all of creation with the snap of his fingers. I have no problem with that concept. But all beings, including all powerful ones, had to come from somewhere. Where did God come from? That's what the story The End of Seconds is about. It starts out as a time travel story and then goes really, really bad. It begins and ends with quotes from Hindu scripture. The first one, it starts with the probably very well-known quote. It's one Oppenheimer used when he witnessed the first nuclear bomb detonation. I am become death, destroyer of worlds. Also ends with a quote from the Rig Veda, because it struck me as presenting kind of a Hindu cyclical thing. The universe is born, it lives, it dies, and then rises again. So that's where we are with campfire stories. The one story I didn't put into campfire stories was a piece called A God to Dance With. And it is a story about an archaeological expedition that goes horribly bad, and one member gets killed, and her body is then possessed by an energy being called a Dolwa. Sorry, spoilers. When I wrote that story, I had no plans of writing any sequels to it or anything like that, until one day I sent it out, and the publisher that the magazine I sent it out to, the editor sent it back, said, this seems like part of something bigger. And I looked at it and I went, yeah, why not? Originally there was supposed to be 12 stories, but then I pared it back down to 7. Some of my immortal characters are introduced here. It's the first appearance of Scott Madigan, who shows up frequently. And then there's Arcadia Ryan, shows up in this also. I wanted to do something different. It's not a traditional novella with chapters. It's a collection of short stories. Instead of chapters, I have stories. So stretching. I had to write some framing pieces, which not a problem. And we cover it. It's the course of a year, beginning and ending at the exact same point in the exact same place. 2 different points in time, separated by a year. It was interesting. I like it. I like it. Then bouncing up into the future again, bouncing back into the future. The Fault Lies Not. This is a cop story, as a murder mystery set in the late 26th century, 2585. Earthgov security agents Lynn Silo and her partner Vincent DeBerg are working with local law enforcement to stop a serial killer. Now, most crimes have been eliminated on Earth. Any violent crime carries a death penalty, so nobody really wants to risk it. But somebody is running around committing murders, and so we had to. So this is a story of them trying to bring in the killer. And also in this is the most awkward transition I have ever written. The story is told from Lynn's point of view, except for one section. There is a point where Lynn is taken captive, but I needed the audience to know some things that Lynn doesn't, and it's a very awkward, I will say it, it's a very awkward transition where we go from Lynn's point of view to Vincent's point of view and back to Lynn's point of view. Yeah, I look at it now and shudder. But that it is what it is as of right now. May change in the future. We may see. Then there's Ray. I had this image. I was watching. I had started watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I was intrigued by the character of Rei Ayanami, blue hair, red eyes, and so her hair creeped into this story. The main female lead, Rachel Mercer, Ray, has blue hair. But she's not an angel, whatever Ray turns out to be. I've seen Evangelion 5 times, and I still do not know what the hell went on at the end there. But that's a story for another video. It's a Division 5 Earthgov Security Division 5 story. The 2 agents, Kevin Mercer is just transferred from Division 2, and Rachel's fresh out of the academy. So, excuse me. Oh, my water's over there. Be right back. Sorry, I forgot my lovely drink. Thank you. Okay. And this is also a murder mystery. It starts off in the middle of it. By the time Kevin and Rachel get to the scene of the murder on a colony world, the chief of security has a suspect arrested, and they think it's an open and shut case. Then things take a turn. It's the shortest book, and it's 16,000 words, and I'm looking at this now, and it's like I should not have published this as a freestanding book. It's too short. But On a Cold Wind introduces Carolyn Adrastia and her partner Murphy Greenfield, and gets us a little bit farther into Division 5. And as we learn a lot of background of enhanced humans, why they're hated so much, and that Division 5 is the only division at this time, 2189, the only division in all of EarthGov Security's 5 divisions that employs enhanced humans. For now. Also, it was supposed to be the start of a series of series of stories about Carly as she deals with the with the antagonist, rogue enhanced human named Ephraim Bartok. I keep going back to the immediate sequel, which is called Dissembler, which introduces a drug that only works on enhanced humans because it reacts with the beryllium in their bones. The thing about beryllium is you take some, and it makes you happy. You take too much, it makes you psychotically raging like an animal. And since enhanced humans are multiple times stronger than average humans, I mean, think Captain America strong. You don't want that. So it ends kind of open-ended. One of these days, I will get to the sequel. I might complete it. I might pare it down and just end it in the sequel to end it in Dissembler. I don't know. I haven't done it yet. I got so many other things I'm working on right now. Brianna End 3 was almost not published because I wrote this and I never did anything with it. I had the first draft and I never did any editing with it. I never worked on it for the longest time. And then I went back to it, left it, came back, left. And finally I decided, because I knew it needed a lot of work. The basic plot was fine, the characters were fine, everything was okay. It just needed a lot of editing. I mean, there were times when I had whole pages literally covered in red ink, just from all the edits that had to be done and all the rewriting front and back. Because if I have to rewrite something, if I can't rewrite it in the paragraph or at the top and the bottom of the page, I rewrite it on the back of the page. There were pages both sides completely covered in red ink. But when all was said and done, it was finally to the point where I liked it enough to want to publish it. And I am kind of working. I do have a kind of a sequel to this kind of planned, because there's at the end of this, Brianna mentions her brother, Sean Crow. There's a reason why they have different last names. But I decided that I was going to tell Sean's story, so that takes place a year after this. It's called the An Essence of Dichotomy, and one of these days I'll actually finish it. But that's not important right now. Upon a Far Distant Shore. This one introduces Section Alpha, the precursor to EarthGov Security. It is the first story that actually introduces Section Alpha. It introduces an extra dimensional race known as the Tralamophon. And introduces one of my favorite characters. Her name is Artemis Shan. She is an interesting character. She is ethnically Chinese. Her parents had immigrated from Beijing in the mid 80s. She was born in the early 80s, I should say. She was born in 86, I think it was. And her sister was born 3 years later. They are fluent in both English and Mandarin. And when Artemis When Artemis gets angry, she tends to curse in Chinese, which led to a lot of really interesting research. Um, Artemis and her team show up again in another story I'm working on now called The Reality Torsion. They actually do show up in my long in progress vampire novel, although there's not a lot to say at that point. She's still a probationary agent. That takes place earlier in her career. She's been an agent for 5 years, 5 or 6 years. So also it also introduces mages, werewolves, the whole secondary world that the average citizen doesn't know is there, and they don't really see it because it's outside of their sphere of normalcy, if you will. So they don't see it. It's one of the things my main vampire character in the book, in the vampire novel Under the Dark of the Moon, will say at the end. She and the main protagonist are on a city street. There's people walking down the street, and the protagonist says all these people will run from fear from you. So she extends her fangs and walks up and leans over to the next person and kind of hisses at them. They just keep going. It's like this is outside their range of not their sphere of normalcy. They're not even going to see it. So, but that's that. And this is I had to figure out what my werewolves look like. That was interesting. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I know I am. I do these videos off the top of my head, and I don't really script anything, and I just make it up as I go along. Sorry, that's the way I am. I mean, that's the way I write. So, Raven brings us back to the future in 2191. Oh, I forgot to mention, starting with Under the Dark of the Moon, I figured out a timeline. I started initially for myself, so I knew where everything was, so that when I was starting a new story, I would know where in the timeline it fell, so I would be able to say, okay, this goes here, this goes there, that goes there, okay. This way I don't have the same characters in two different stories at the same time. It's like, it's not gonna work. So that's what that's there for. And I also started including it because these are not being written in the order that they occur. I'm bouncing around the timeline. Like I've got this, and then there's Stranger, which takes place in 2189 also. Then there's Wanderer that takes place in 2192. Excuse me. It takes place in 2190. So yeah, we're bouncing around. It's just, because in all honesty, when a lot of these started, they as the ideas came to me, and I originally wasn't thinking about having everything tie in, but that's how it's gone. So hence the timeline. Raven at its base is a kidnapping story. Special EarthGov Security Division 2 Special Agent David Troy and his partner, Special Agent Maureen Rogers, are dispatched to help out on a kidnapping of a rich industrialist's grandchildren. David is suspicious from the beginning. There's some kind of link between his partner and the industrialist chief of security, Lisa Stennis, who, if you read Campfire Stories, might recognize her name. Not gonna say. She does show up in another story, though. She does show up in the Massanin, but I'll talk about that. This is completed works, not works in progress. So yeah, we get to find out more about what exactly it is that Maureen is keeping secret, and save the kids. Stranger. Now, in the late 22nd century, the only divisions of EarthGov security that currently have enhanced humans is Division 4 and Division 5. In 2190, EarthGov president declared that all government divisions would be open to enhanced humans. And this is the story of the first enhanced human in Division 2. Probationary agent Denise Bell and her partner, Special Agent Nicola Baldwin. Interesting thing about Nicola, she used to be Martin. I was looking one day at all my EarthGov security characters, and I kept noticing one thing. Every one of them was a man and a woman. Carly and Murphy, Wesley and the twins, Kevin and Ray, David and Maureen. So I figured it'd be easier to change Nicola than it'd be easier to change the partner than it is to change the main character, because changing the main character means I'd have to rewrite everything from the beginning, whereas with just changing the partner, I was early enough in the story where I can change the partner, where the only time that the partner had shown up was just on a phone call, so it was easy to change. So Martin became Nicola. Martin's still part of the story. He's Nicola's husband. And she gets in Stranger. Denise gets shoved into a undercover assignment she's not prepared for. She's still a probationary agent. She doesn't have the experience to do real undercover work, but she's forced to do undercover work because one of her batch sisters called and said, "Hey, I need your help." And then her batch sister's been keeping secrets too. There is a sequel to this. The Hour of the Wolf is actually the sequel to Stranger. It's a shorter work, but it's a year and a half after Stranger, and I do have other plans for Denise also. And finally, we have Wanderer. Yeah, it's after 12:30 at night. I gotta get to bed. Fortunately, I'm off tomorrow. Wanderer is the story of Special Agent Alexandra Sinclair. She is a courier with Division 5 and has a perfect memory. But at the beginning of the story, she has no idea who she is. She has no memory of anything. But she has a perfect memory. How could she forget anything? And this also guest stars other Division 5 characters. Carly, Murphy, Wesley, and the twins are in this also. And it did switch up some pairings a bit. Instead of having Carly and Murphy here on Earth it was originally Wesley and Murphy. They were going to be here on Earth. Carly and the twins looking for Alexa. I decided to switch it up a little bit. I switched Carly and Murphy's places. So, and I think it worked out very well. And at the end of the story, I introduced Alexa to her future girlfriend, who, if you've read On a Cold Wind, you might recognize the name Teresa Frankel. Yeah, that's it. That's it for now. That's the 12 books. They're all available on Amazon, Smashwords. I think they're all available on Nook also. Yeah, Smashwords publishes Nook. Okay. So yeah, If if you want, I'll go into the books individually and um, a little deeper dive into them if you want. Um, Other than that, yeah, that's really about it for now, guys. Um, so just they're available on Smashwords, Amazon. Look, I'm babbling again. And so remember, we are each of us the heroes of our own stories and the villains of someone else's. I always just said at the end of the videos. I just don't. I went blank there for a minute. Oh, if you do buy any of the books, please make sure you go back and leave a review. Good, bad, or indifferent. Everything helps. Thank you. Take care. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.